can start now.
So I think it's up to you.
It's all we got for that now?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but seriously, shall I leave that?
Can we make a start, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a lot to do. And we're all stressed. Good. I'm going to, if it's all right with you, Esther, we'll get George just to say, he wants us just to say 2 or 3 things, and then we can go on to your presentation, please. So, George.
Right, good evening all.
Hi, George.
2 things. One is that I wanted to make sure that on the agenda for the next meeting is about the sighting of the sign for the glebe tree, because we need to do it before the snow's on the ground.
It's in hand. I've got it and it's in hand.
No, but George is making sure that the invitation would be who's going to open it up and so we can...
No, I thought you said sighting of.
Well, the village, no, I'm not about the actual unveiling with the village school children, possibly. But so it should be on the agenda for the October meeting. Also, on the agenda for the next meeting, I would like to ask the council to support me on a listed monument in the churchyard. It's a listed chest tomb, grade 2 listing. It's on the Buildings at Risk register, but it's a monument to Edward Symes of this parish surgeon. As the 2 panels on the south side are in danger of being lost, the stone is flaking, it's necessary to replace them. The church authorities were contacted, but they said it was not their problem, but that of the relatives. As he died in 1781, I haven't been able to trace anyone, and therefore decided to investigate having prepared for future generations. Wells Cathedral stonemasons have visited the site and given a cost of £1,780 plus VAT for the following work: lift the slab on the top of the chest and replace afterwards, lift out the 2 existing panels, replace the inscriptions of Edward Symes and his wife Elizabeth as in the original design and using forest pennant stone, reposition the slabs and make good any other pieces on the tomb. A grant may be obtained from St Andrew's Conservation Trust, and I estimate that Parish Council's portion could be under 500, but even that is a high figure, providing we can get minor grants. The inscription at present reads, "In memory of Edward Symes of this parish, surgeon. He departed this life the 27th of February 1781 in the 43rd year of his," and that's where that little bit ends. The other panel is his wife, and you can make out also Eliza, so we assume Elizabeth, wife of the, and then that's the end, but you can make out a little bit of Edward Symes. So the idea is, while we have some information of what is there, that we make a replica piece and put it in. But in the October meeting, I would like to ask for the council's support. Thank you.
We'll discuss it then, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, George.
Mr. Chairman, George, can you just tell me where it is so I can go and have a look at it, please? Briefly.
I do better than that. You can have a little look at that.
The square one, big square.
It's the big square, it looks like
Garden land.
Okay.
So that's a panel with
Polished
the writing on.
Okay, got it.
The polished shape.
Alright.
I was up there tonight. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Right, Esther from Sedgwell would like to just go through, I believe it's just the letting policy, is that right?
That's correct. Thank you, Chair. I'm going to get Harry to just pass round some of the information that we discussed at the steering group at the end of last week.
I'll put that in the orange.
Thank you.
I've got it on
hopefully then be built up the road, Brent Street Station Road site that's the preferred choice of the Parish Council. What we did is we had a meeting with the steering group back last week with Martin Carney, who's the operational manager for South Western Housing Society, and we had a look through the Mark lettings policy. What it is when a home is let, obviously it's going to have a local lettings policy for those people that are local to Brent Knoll, so in the parish of Brent Knoll. And the people that are applying will be registered on Home Finder Somerset. This is for the rented homes. So what we've done and what the steering group have agreed is 9 priority groups, which we wanted to discuss with you this evening, just to see whether we're on the right track and whether it's something that you're happy to agree. And the form that you have in front of you is sort of plain English rather than the legal terminology that it's put in. So what I've done is just typed it out in plain English. So in the first instance, when a property is let in the first category, the applicant should have continuously resident or living within the parish of Brent Knoll for the previous period of 5 years. So when you're looking to let the property, that will be the first priority group that we look at. So if we can find 9 people that fit that criteria, we don't need to look any further. If we can't, then we drop down to priority group 2. And this priority group is about an applicant been continuously resident or living within the parish of Brent Knoll for at least 3 years. So from that point forward, if we don't fill the homes from that category, we drop down to the next category, and so on and so on. So priority group 4 should be able to evidence a previous residence within Brent Knoll for at least 5 years out of the last 10. Priority group 5 is they should be able to evidence permanent employment or self-employment in the parish of Brent Knoll. And permanent employment means having a permanent contract of employment for a minimum of 16 hours a week for the last 3 years. And then that will be the 5 criteria for Brent Knoll. If after this point in time there's still vacancies and we haven't managed to secure a home for a local person, the other piece of paper that you've got is a map of the surrounding parishes. And what the steering group felt was that we should look further afield to Burnham without. We had a bit of a discussion about what to include and what not to include, and they felt that Burnham without would be the next criteria. So we would go through the same process again. If we can't find anybody from priority group 5, we would look at somebody from Burnham without who's lived in that parish for the previous period of 5 years. If there's nobody from that category, we go to priority group 7, and that should be somebody who's lived in Burnham without for the previous period of 3 years. So you'll see it matches what we've done with Brent Knoll. Priority group 8, what I originally put this in as an all-in-one hit, so they could fit any of these criteria. But Martin from South Western Housing Society felt it was better to put those in priority order as well. So should be able to evidence family who've continuously resided in the parish for the past 10 years. Then previous residents in Burnham without for 5 out of the last 10 years, and then again the employment one. So that's something to think about, whether you want all of those together in priority group 8, or whether you want me to segregate them down into 8, 9 and 10. And then failing anybody finding a home, which is highly unlikely, priority group 9 we always have to put on because it can capture anybody that's registered on Home Finder Somerset. So in respect of family, in both instances of Brent Knoll and Burn Without, we're talking about immediately family members to the applicant or their partner, or the joint applicant, and that's parents, grandparents, children or siblings. So that's how the cascade will fall. The reason I printed you out the map is for you to have a look at to see whether there's anything that you feel would be any different. So really, I'd just like your comments on it really. What I would like to talk about as well is the criteria for the occupancy of the properties as well. So in respect of the one-bedroom properties especially that are going to be let, and the two-bedroom properties, often on the Home Finder Somerset, only a couple or a single person can apply for one bed. And two bed, it's two people not in a relationship but being accommodated together. A parent or a couple with one child. A parent or a couple with two children under the age of 10, regardless of gender. And a parent or couple with two children under 16 of the same gender. What we do in a lot of cases is often we find people or couples that are looking to rent are able to afford a rented property with that extra bedroom, and they would prefer that if they wanted to start a family or they want a bigger home. So we thought we could take that occupancy clause on the two-bedroom properties, which we can put within the local lettings criteria. And if I didn't explain that properly, I'll try again.
No, I think we understand. I think, well, certainly I know that somebody had said to me about that issue anyway. So I think, yes, because otherwise you're going to prejudice people
Yes.
that will struggle then possibly to let those two bedrooms.
Yeah, because what will happen is you're letting a property to a couple that would hopefully start a family, and then they would have to move again, so they'd be in a one bed and have to move to a two bed. And of course that's whether or not a two bed is available. So in rural areas it's quite important for us to look at not just the mix, but about, you know, what the bedroom sizes and what people can apply for.
My only comment, and there may be others, is does this policy apply once somebody has taken residence, they then vacate for whatever reason, and it has to then be re-let? This would still apply to the second
Yes.
letting, as it were.
Well, the actual qualifying criteria that you decide will be put in the legal document called the Section 106.
Right.
So whenever those properties are let, the South Western Housing Society will have to go through the criteria every single time a property is let.
So is the Section 106 a document in perpetuity?
Yes, it's the legal agreement that's attached to the planning permission.
Thank you. Any other comments? Because I think Owen explained to you that we need to put it on the agenda to agree a formal decision.
Yes,
Because it hasn't gone on the agenda.
That's right, no. But I just thought if you had any questions, you can have a look at it. And
Has anybody got any questions, immediate questions, or we can wait till next month and then?
My only observation, for want of a better, is on priority group 5, should be able to give evidence permanent employment, self-employment in the parish of Brent Knoll. Permanent employment means having a permanent contract. I'm not quite sure how many businesses we have in the parish of Brent Knoll that would actually employ people on contracts of employment. I can't see the garage or the garden centre, but that's about it. But
you can look at people that may be gardeners, tree surgeons, farm hands, pub workers, nursing home.
okay,
So-
I pass on that one then.
Yeah.
Yeah, give up. I'm beaten.
Comment?
I surrender. White flag.
Still got that in writing.
Esther has also circulated via Owen, which you might have seen an email later on this afternoon, and she has put some initial drawings of the Cycling Station Road that are the proposed at this stage for submission
for a planning application?
I was just thinking, I was grabbing for a date. I think it's going to be end of September.
It is. It's hopefully sometime this month, yes.
Sometime in September.
Yes.
And this was an opportunity, if anybody had any views at this moment in time, unofficially, to raise comment or no comments on, that is a picture of the proposed street scenes. It's a bit soon, but I think, are you open to
What?
comments from after this meeting, Esther?
Yeah, because it came into me late in the day today, I thought it was good to share it with the parish council, and then any comments that you have now or within the next week or two, if you could let me have them, I will pass them back to the architect.
You should have got the email with that.
Yes, we did.
I've got that. Is the site entrance on Station Road then?
No.
No, that is just purely the street view. That's if you drove down Station Road, that's what you'd see, those two properties.
And there will be a footpath coming out
And then
between
the
the two
footpath
houses.
through there. So, and then the main entrance is
On Brent
that one.
Street.
That's the site entrance. And that's the only comment I would have is, I don't like that roof
How can
line.
you comment if it's not been submitted to?
No, this is just an opportunity to make
It's
comments
just-
prior to submission.
It's just comment.
This is not a
Just
formal
comment.
comment, this is me saying this, Richard
Yeah.
Hall, not Council Hall. I don't like the roof line on that, and Esther has already been made aware of that. So.
It's just a little bit
No,
of
it's
feedback
just-
from the parish council and the steering
It's
group.
just comment. It's just this.
Yeah, it's not the
comment. We shouldn't be doing anything until
I think, Chairman, the only comment I would have made was the layout and stuff is what we talked about before. I think it's pretty much everyone's on board. The only thing I would hope is that materials and designs might be a little bit improved on what's there. It's a little bit standard stuff,
Okay.
whereas I think people are going to hope that, particularly after they've seen some of the designs down the other end,
Yeah.
where there was issues about layout and location, but designs were seen to be pretty good. This one you might find you're around the other way, that
Okay.
designs might be the thing that's struggling a little bit.
I think it's on this, it looks there, it's on the side or something.
Has anything been said or decided about the possibility of flooding? I keep bringing this up because I wondered if you'd heard any more from authorities.
We have. The internal drainage board have to carry out some works along Brent Street, which we're working together with them when and if a development goes ahead. Because of the flooding issues, apparently there's a collapsed culvert along there, which
Yeah.
causes that issue. I'm not a technical expert, so I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I know that South Western Housing Society will be working with the drainage board to ensure that that collapsed culvert is fixed. So yes, that has been looked into.
Yeah, I mean, that was our understanding anyway, Esther, that nobody wants to take responsibility for, so if the development goes ahead, they will. And that should sort it.
That's correct, yeah. They put in a contingency to enable that to be sorted because they wouldn't be able to build there without that being dealt with.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, ladies and gents? Thank you very much, Esther.
Okay.
Thanks, Esther.
Yeah. Do you need those back, Esther?
No, we haven't got for you to keep a copy of it. Like I say, it should have gone round to you all, but Owen said that he would pass it round. It's just the timing of it.
Yeah, the email came up late, very late.
Yeah, it was
so-
late, yeah. So,
Thank you anyway.
thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Are we done?
Thanks, Esther.
You can go.
Let you stand there.
Yes, you can stand there.
Thank you very much, all.
We have done.
Good night.
Bye, Esther.
Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Right, we can start the camera roll.
It already is.
Oh, yeah. I forgot, is it already started the public session?
Yes.
No, right, okay, so let's have our meeting today. As you realise, Owen is still unwell. And so we've got Hazel, sorry. Hazel, I'm taking your surname.
Brinton.
Brinton is our standing clerk today.
Hello.
See Clark's, Cheddar, and Bree? No.
Breen, yeah,
Breen.
Cheddar Breen and Northwood have been mended, so.
Baptism by fire then
What are you
tonight.
doing in your spare time?
Actually, should have come to the last meeting, that would have been the
Yeah.
baptism.
Yeah.
I had seen it online.
Oh, yeah.
So, Owen obviously is,
Is he improving?
Good evening. Good evening.
when you speak to him, Peter, he sounds fine. But he is seeing the consultant on Monday and will be then looking to get a decision on what the process will be to hopefully resolve the issue.
Yeah,
Mm.
he told me that about half an hour ago before I came.
But when I spoke to him lunchtime, he was full of joys. So we just wish him well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got 2 apologies for absence. We've got Bella Ward is on holiday in Cornwall, and Councillor Parkett allegedly is in Egypt.
Yeah. It's not you or GPT.
Her garden.
Getting right, I think.
So are we content that their apologies are accepted?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pushed on that. Any declarations of pecuniary interest, personal or prejudicial? Bob?
Yeah, can I make the normal personal declarations on anything relating to the district and county because of my role as a district and county councillor, and on the planning applications 22, 23 and 24, a declaration to avoid predetermination, etc., and I'll be leaving the room during that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No, thank you. Right, we've had 2 sets of minutes, or you've had 2 sets of minutes to consider. One was of our last full meeting on the 4th of July, and the other one was the shorter meeting which we had a fortnight ago on the 15th. Has anybody got any objections to the minutes that circulated by Owen? So we'll take those as read, so talk amongst yourselves while I sign them. What's the date, sir? 5th.
It's 50, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not spotted.
That's one.
Yeah, it was. I hadn't actually caught on.
Right, moving on, we have 3 planning applications tonight, so
Oh, right.
to be honest, I don't know whether we really need them.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Right.
Okay, Peter. We don't need to practice first aid on you. Right, first application is 00022, demolition of existing rearing pen barn, replacement with a new larger rearing pen at Wick Farm. Any comments or any issues?
Well, I looked at it this morning, and the comments online were from the Accent Brew Drainage Board, and it said the applicant advised prior to work commencing that the land drainage consent is required from the Axbury Drainage Board for construction within 9 metres of a watercourse.
I think that's a standard thing from,
Yeah, it is,
from the
but I'm
drainage
just
board.
telling you, because
Yeah.
obviously if I don't tell you, I won't have done what I'm supposed to do. Right. Okay? And this is, and this has to be added to any permission that is granted. And the ecologist who looked at and said that there cannot be any building work carried out between March and August because of birds nesting, etc.
Because of what? Birds.
Birds nesting.
Mm.
But apart from that, I think that they, you know, that it was, they were not against it.
I mean, personally, I can't see there are any issues of concern unless other councillors have.
No, and the next one is the same really.
And I know, can we deal with them individually?
Yes.
We need to vote on it.
Okay.
So can I have a proposal that we support, and the grounds to support is
Good husbandry.
good husbandry. Thank you, Malcolm.
But can we qualify that though? Because it says they can't grant the permission unless they have the permissions. Is that right, David?
Yeah.
From the
Yeah,
Axel?
but
We
yeah,
just have to,
searchologist enforce
Yes.
that as a standard.
The same, the
No,
case
I'm
officer
saying
should be doing that.
Basically, I'll say something quickly because I was just thinking about it. All 3 of the planning applications have come to us today because there is a government grant at the moment to improve water quality in this area because there's, well, an issue with the beaches and things, and they see farming as some of that problem, so they're actually grant funding improvements, so there's less sort of dirty water entering water systems, and all 3 of these applications are dealing with the same rainbow grant subject.
Right.
So any applications there's saving and slurry?
Yeah, they're making less slurry and dirty water by roofing everything, and then it's clean water off the roofs into
Yeah.
the ditch as opposed to runoff
It's
that's
just
just
it's management knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
which
So we can support the first one, and in some ways, 0023 is...
4 is different.
No, but 0023
Yeah.
is putting the roof over the area
Yeah,
anyway,
this thing,
which is to improve, as David has pointed out, this drainage issue.
yeah.
So
It just
again,
makes-
can
makes
There is
I...
no objection from
Rosa.
So we can, because again, the same Axborough site made the same comment, so...
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no
it will be
objection
for,
from them.
It won't
It'll be for
find-
ecological reasons
Yeah.
as opposed to
Management.
Yeah.
Well, it is actually.
Yes, so we
Yeah.
support it
Yes,
on the grounds
yes,
of
it is to do with
So
quality.
show of hands please, so it's all in favour, so it's on the grounds of
Environmental.
good environmental practice.
Mm.
Now, on the last one,
Yes.
it's...
Yeah, it
Yes,
is
it
in
is.
Brent Knoll.
That one is slightly
They say
different.
Mark, but it is actually in Brent Knoll.
Yeah, if you look at the location plan, it's just over the
Mm.
other side
There's
of...
2 rugby farms, because of the
Yeah.
Nile in
And this is a formation of 2
Northwood.
areas,
Yeah.
hard standing.
This is the one on Bell Road.
I think this is slightly more problematical because
Yes,
they are
it is.
concerned about the water,
Yeah,
not
it-
necessarily the quality of the water, the quantity of the water.
yeah. And they do object to, they object to the proposal due to lack of details, the management of surface water.
Yeah.
And then more information is required. The applicant advised that land drainage consent is required prior to commencement.
I think the issue here is we've got
Yes.
an anti-comment from an expert that we are not therefore.
No.
Yes.
And because
In principle, it's a good
Yes.
It's a good thing,
Yeah.
and it's not for us to comment on
No,
what
no,
the drainage board
that's
said.
where the comment.
in Blackmount, they're saying there's a lack of information.
Yeah,
but I mean, in principle, we would support
yeah.
I think.
because I think it's good practice to
Yeah.
improve what they've got. I am mindful, with my engineering background, that you can actually now have what they call permeable concrete.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems with concrete is when you get a lot of rain on it, it just stands there in ponds. Permeable concrete that you can now use, it will drain absolutely amazingly in front of your eyes. And it will literally, I saw a video where it dealt with a rainfall, the equivalent rainfall of 40 inches of rain, and it all disappeared. So it can be done, but we can't say that.
But then it's where it goes, you see.
Yes,
It's
but
where it
they've
goes
got to
to.
come up with a mechanistic thing anyway
Yes.
for dealing with it. So in principle we support on the grounds of, I'm
Yes.
not sure what grounds we have on
Well,
that, because
Well,
It's
it's
better
the
improved.
environmental
Yes.
Provided.
environmental improvement because the area is currently mud and dirty
And it's
water
management
according to
for it
their
again, isn't it?
documentation.
yeah. I don't know if you know the site, David.
Yeah, I do know where it is. I would say it's a definite improvement on what's there.
Or farm management, isn't it?
Well, it's
Yeah.
management of the
But obviously the drainage board will have their speed on
which is pretty
and
important,
such
really.
more.
It's the, it's the mechanistics of dealing with
Yeah.
rain, or the water level, yeah. Bob can come back. That's quick. You're on district council.
Probably, if I can, start with county. There's a couple of smaller issues and then a bigger one. In terms of, we've had an update recently, Hinkley Point have given us some further information from EDF. They commented that the good weather over the summer has meant they've actually been able to make better progress on site than they were hoping. So they've caught up some of the backlog that they had where they'd slipped behind schedule. They're now telling us that they think that the aggregate jetty will be scheduled to start operating in the Q2 of next year. So that should mean that then more of the stone can come in via the sea rather than down the highways, which will be a help. In terms of road maintenance, we spoke a little while ago about a thing called a dragon patcher, which is a new type of kit that is for repairing road potholes. It's been on order for a while. It's actually coming into service this month and will then be operating across the county until November and then starting again in the spring. Basically, it repairs potholes with a single operator rather than a team, and apparently is supposed to operate at 5 times the speed that a normal team can operate at in terms of repairing potholes and also doing repairs on cracks to avoid them getting worse. So that's being worked on between ourselves and Skanska, who are the operators for the highway maintenance for county. The other thing that Skanska are looking at the moment, and some of you may have seen it on Country File, they're looking at whether or not a use for old plastic might well be in road repairs. So Cumbria Council have been doing it for a while, and the feedback we've had, county have been in touch with them, and they're saying that actually they've had some really good results from using it. Apparently it's better, it binds well into the roads and it's very hard wearing as well. So county are going to be looking at potentially working on using some of that next year, depending on as long as the results keep coming in well from the trials. The other thing you may have heard in the news is that there are some financial issues at the county at the moment. There's a team being set up called the Financial Imperative Team, which has basically been looking at any potential savings that the county can make in terms of budgetary expenditure. The bottom line is, in effect, if the county continued spending at its current rate of spending, by the end of this year they would have a £12 million overspend. That can't happen because basically every year the county, as all councils, have to budget to balance their books. So there is a look to see whether or not savings can be made both within this financial year and ongoing savings into future years. Of that 12 million overspend, the overspend in the children's services section alone is 20 million. So in effect all the other sections are having to come in under budget in order to try and offset the overspend in the children's services. That's mainly happening because the demand for children's services, this is not education, this is social services looking after children who are vulnerable. We have more children who are in that category now than have been for some time. There's over 500 children that are now in care being looked after through the county system. The cost of caring has gone up because the needs of the children are greater, and after things like the baby P scandal that happened a number of years ago, obviously everyone wants to make sure they're looking into making sure that everyone is looked after well. So there's a meeting coming up next week to look through potential savings, which are running into something like 10 to 12 million pounds. They will be across the network, through children's services, through adult social care, coming down to things like reducing some of the gritting routes for the winter, and various other savings that are made. Some of them are large, some of them are small, but with a view to trying to grip the financial issues that the county has got. Part of the issues that have come about is, over the last few years, and I've mentioned before that government grant is being phased out. Next year there will be no revenue support grant from government. The county has seen its funding from government cut by just under 50% since 2010. So they've actually taken 120 million out of budgets already, and we're now having to sign still further. So there are discussions going on with government to say, look, this is a national issue as well as for the county. Children's services across the whole of the UK last year overspent their budgets by 800 million. And in effect what is being said to government is, what you're asking us to do and what you're asking local people to pay for is something that counties and unitaries are going to find very difficult to fund in the future. So we need a bit of help, and as yet we're waiting for a financial response. So that's the sort of situation that the county are in, and that's why there's the issues currently in terms of what's going to be happening for the finance for next year.
Going back to this machine that's coming to fill the potholes,
Yeah.
does Skanska own that or the county?
I believe Skanska are owning that.
What happens to the county? Do they go out and audit these people?
Yes, I mean, there is in terms of quality control, yes, they are supposed to go out and have a look. Obviously, if issues crop up that people are aware of that things haven't been done right, then they will go out and look at those as well. But there is a regular going out and looking at what's
I
being
heard
done.
a story this week of a road that was tarmacked in Bridgewater, and they had to cut out some patches around the manholes. They filled it all in, and then they left the manhole 2 inches, 3 inches deep. And they cut out these holes. They said that the next day the men would come along and fix the pothole. They came along with a load of tar in the back of a lorry,